Hello and welcome to day 3 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm releasing a brand new Cricut craft every day for the whole month of October. I'm really excited for today's project. It's my favourite one of the whole countdown, and fair warning, it's a little bit on the large side. So let's have a look. And here is a huge layered paper craft Happy Halloween sign to go on your wall as part of your Halloween decorations. Now this follows the kind of layered paper craft technique, which is really popular in the Cricut community at the moment. So there's loads of depth to this across all of the different pictures, and it's a whopping 22 inches long. But don't worry, I have designed it specifically so you can cut it out on A4 or 12 by 12 pieces of card and then just stick it all together to make the finished design. To get the free SVG to make your own Happy Halloween sign, check out the link in the description of this video to visit my website. I've also produced a load of matching layered SVGs to go with this. You can see a few of them on the wall behind me, but there are loads more. So when you follow the link to get the free design, you'll also be able to check out those ones as well. So this does require quite a bit of card, as you can see, but I think it's totally worth it. It is a showstopper craft, which is going to really up-level your Halloween decor this year. So let's crack on and see how it all goes together. When you upload the SVG into Design Space, it should come in at the correct size. But just to check, if you click on the design and then look in the size box at the top, the width should be 22 inches. You can do it smaller if you want to, or larger, but the problem with doing it larger is that it will then get too tall for your mat. So you could maybe go up to about 11.5 inches tall, but probably no more than that. Otherwise you're going to have to start slicing things apart yourself to get them to fit on your cutting mats. But at 22 inches wide, that's about 10.7 inches tall. And I have made this so that it will fit on your cutting mats, and you can cut it from different sizes of paper. So just to show you, if I click make it, it'll fit it on 12 by 12 paper, but as I'm in the UK, 12 by 12 paper is a little bit hard to find, so I cut it out from A4. So you can just change the paper size to A4 and then it will rearrange everything for you. So sometimes when you change the size, it will split it into more than one mat, and that's absolutely fine. It's because it's just too much to fit onto that one sheet of A4. So you can just go through and change all the paper to the size you want, and then go ahead, cut every single thing out, and then we can jump into assembling our Happy Halloween sign. I've cut out all my pieces, so it's time to start assembling everything together, and I'm going to start with the very bottom. Now, I'm sorry this is going to be a little bit hard to see because it's black card on my black background, but hopefully you can see well enough for it to go across. So I'm going to assemble the 4 largest black pieces into the correct order. So the one on the very left is the one with the Grim Reaper outline. And then next to that is going to be the one where you've got the slimy bit at the top, and then you can see the outline of the coffin. Next is the haunted house piece, so it's got these spires on it, so you know which one it is. And then finally on the right will be the one with the broomstick on the end. Now I highly recommend having the design open in front of you when you're doing this so that you can see how it will all go together. And you can always hide some of the layers by clicking the little eye icon in Design Space so that you can just see the pieces that you're working on, which might make it easier. So for all of these back pieces, they have a little overlap on them to allow you to stick it together nice and easily. So if we take these 2 pieces together, the very bit on the left of the second piece of the coffin will sit over the one the other side. Or actually I'm going to do it the other way around just because I ripped my card a little bit when I was taking it apart. So I'm going to move the left piece on top of the one next to it and just line up the edges so that they go together. So there is quite a big overlap there. So that's fine. I'm happy with that. So now once I know where it's going to go, I'm just going to move it off. Add a little bit of glue down the second piece. And then just line it up again and stick it down. So you do want to be quite careful when you're lining this up, because if you stick it too far over or not enough over, then all of the pieces that you layer on top aren't going to fit properly. So take your time and get it all lined up as well as you possibly can. So the next piece is going to be here. So again, I'm going to put the glue, I think I'll do it this way around. So again, I'll put the glue on the bit on the right hand side. So just a little bit of glue down that edge. Then I can line this up. So the easiest way on this one to line it up is with the edge of the coffin. So you can see how the two pieces connect, and that edge here will be lined up, and also the bottom of the drip at the top you can line up. There we are. And you'll also know if you've got it right because your line at the top here should be nice and straight. And also once you get to this part, the line along the bottom is also straight between the pieces. So now there's one more piece of the bottom, which is on the right hand side. So, oh, I'm pushing things off my craft table here because this is so big. Okay, add some glue down the fourth piece. And for this one, I find it's easiest to line up the top of the spires on the haunted house. So just make sure that that line, the curve bit, is perfectly lined up between the two. And there we go, the base is now assembled. But what I like to do for a little bit of extra security is when this glue is dry enough, I'm just going to turn it upside down and add some sticky tape to the other side along some of these lines, just as an extra little bit of stability to make sure it's not going to come apart. Here's my tape. I'm just going to put some over these join lines, making sure that it doesn't go over the edges because I don't want to be able to see it from the other side. It's maybe a bit long. Right, so now that's nice and secure. Can turn it back the right way around again and start thinking about some of these layers. I'm going to start with the Happy Halloween on the top. So the bits I'm going to need for that are these two green drippy bits, and I'm going to need to stick these together. And then all of the letters as well for the word happy. To start with, I'm going to stick these two pieces together. So I had to do it in two bits so that it would fit on one A4 sheet of paper. And just like we did with the black one, you can see it overlaps a bit, and that's where we're going to stick it. I'm going to put some glue down this left side. And then stick the right side on top. I'm actually just going to move this a minute so I don't get any glue on it. Oh, it's very big. So, line up those P's. Okay, so this is going to fit over the black pieces like that. I'm going to use foam pads to give it a bit of depth, so I'll turn it over and bring in my foam pads. Now my pads are quite large, so I'm just going to cut them a little bit smaller with a pair of scissors, just so that they last a little bit longer because they're going to need a lot for this design. And then just put a few on the back. I want to make sure I get all the descenders of the letters. so that they don't kind of get caught on anything when I put this up on the wall. And then there should be a nice amount along the top and in the middles too. We want to give it lots of support, so when it's got the other layers on top, it's not going to start sagging in the middle. Right, there we are. So now I can peel off the tops to release all of the stickiness underneath. And now I can turn it over, line it up. Oh, I've got a dog hair on that one. I'm going to line it up in the middle of this section of black at the top, and then when I'm happy with the positioning, just push it down to stick all of those foam pads on. The next thing I'm going to do is stick the black spiderweb letters onto the white backing, and I'm just going to move this out of the way because I don't want to get any glue on it. So here are my letters and then the backings. So I'm just going to lay this out in order to make sure everything's the right way round, and just place these on for now. There we go. And then I'm just going to double check that I haven't put any of those upside down. So to do that, to just double check, you can just line up the layers onto your main thing, just to be sure. You don't want to stick it the wrong way round and then have to try and work out how to take it apart again. So your letters will all line up with the green descenders on the cobweb bit underneath. So that is all looking like I've got it correct. So let's just move these off again so they can get stuck. I always think it's better to spend an extra couple of minutes checking things first rather than risk it and sticking it wrong. So these black letters are very narrow, so I'm going to use glue for these rather than foam pads. And just add a bit of glue to the back of each one and stick it to the corresponding white part. And that's the H one, and then I'm going to do the same for all of the other letters. So here are my other letters, which I've now stuck together, and I need to attach the white letters to the green piece of card. And I'm going to do this using 3D foam. So I've turned the H over and I'm just going to add a couple of little bits of tape to the back. I can line this up against the shapes on the green, so each letter is quite easy to line up because you've got the descenders which drop down underneath the spider web. I can now do the same thing for the A, so add some foam pads and make sure I've got enough on there that it's not going to fall off. Peel the backings off at the top and then line it up along the green piece of card and stick it down. And then once I've done that, I can do the same for all of them. Next, I'm going to move on to do the purple pieces, and this is another selection of card which comes in various sections we'll need to stick together. So this time there's 3 bits of purple. There's the Grim Reaper, the coffin in the middle, and the haunted house, which is third. And as you can see, these will all overlap, so we can stick them together exactly the same way as we did with the black. However, we need to do one step first with this haunted house piece, and that is to add the matching orange bit to the back. So this is what's going to create the light in the windows, and we need to glue this to the back of this purple piece. We're not going to use foam pads because then this bit won't line up with the other ones and it will be all slanted and at an angle. So we need to make sure that this bit is glued. I'm going to add some glue to the back of the purple piece, and make sure you don't put any down that very far right hand side because that's not going to be covered by the orange. Once you've got the glue on there, stick the orange piece of card on and make sure you line up all the edges nicely. You'll have some empty space on the right, as I just said, but that's fine. That's because that's the next part of the image, not part of the haunted house. So I just make sure that's all nicely stuck down. And you can see now the light shining through the windows. And now we can stick these 3 purple pieces together. I'm just trying to work out which order I want to stick them in, and I think I'll stick the middle bit on top of the other 2 pieces. So I'll start by adding some glue to the right hand side of the Grim Reaper piece. And then I can pick up the middle bit and line up the edges. So I'm lining up that little kind of oval shape, making sure they're perfectly positioned one on top of the other, and then I can push down to stick. I can do the same thing on the haunted house piece, so some glue down that left hand side, and then pick up the main design, and again I'm lining up that curved edge to make sure that the pieces overlap perfectly. Just like I did with the black piece, I'm going to add some sticky tape to the back of this to make sure those joins are really strong. So just adding a little bit of tape along these edges will help to keep this a little bit more secure. Now it's time to add the foam pads, and this is going to need quite a lot as it's a big bit of card. I start by putting foam pads all around the edge, and you want to make sure you've got a good covering on there. And then once you've done the edge, add some in the middle as well. It's important to add these extra bits into the middle because it stops your design from sagging once all the other layers of card go on top. So what we're doing here is we're making a nice firm base for all those other layers to sit on. I think I'm almost done here with foam pads. As you can see, there are quite a lot. But now I can peel the backings off of the foam pads to release all of the stickiness. When that's done for all of them, I can turn it upside down and bring my main black sheet back in. I can line up the purple along the black. So how this works is you're going to stick it and there'll be a border of black all the way around the edge. A nice even border which goes around all of the images. So when you're happy with how it's positioned, push it down to stick. And you can see you've got that nice black border evenly around them all. I'm just making sure this is really stuck down. I don't want it to come apart later. And there we are. That is looking good already. Next, I'm going to add the white parts to the Grim Reaper. There are 3 parts to this. You've got the skull and then 2 hands. So to start, I'm going to make sure I've got everything the right way round by layering it against the shapes on the purple layer. So you can make sure you've got the hands the right way round and also that the skull is going to line up nicely with what's on there already. Use 3D foam pads to attach the skull. So one at the top, and then you'll probably need to cut your foam pads a little bit smaller to put one at the bottom. It is good to have a little piece at the bottom because it will help it stay stuck on and be more stable. So just cut a tiny little bit and stick it on there. Peel off the backs of the foam and then you can stick this straight on top of the purple layer, and you'll see how the eyes all line up to show the black card underneath. For the hand on the far side, I'm going to add foam as well. So just a tiny bit of foam on there and I can stick it on. For the other hand though, I'm not going to use foam, and that's because this hand is going to sit underneath the pumpkin. So the pumpkin will be on top and cover over part of that hand. So I don't want to use foam in case the hand gets stuck alongside the pumpkin. So this one, I'll just need a little bit of glue on the back to stick it on so that it doesn't get two-dimensional and interfere with that pumpkin. Next, I'm going to stick on this large black piece, which is the pumpkin, the middle of the coffin, and the base of the hand. So you can see how this will work when you've got the other layers on top. So for this black layer, you can either glue it or use foam. It's up to you. I decided to use foam because I want this to be nice and 3D and have lots of lovely layers. But if you wanted to, glue would work well for this one. So if you're using the foam, make sure you get a piece in all of these fingers as well as the tiny stalk on the pumpkin. We want this to be nice and firm and not going to fall off. And just like with the purple piece, put some pieces in the middle to give that stability and stop the large pieces of card from sagging. When I've peeled the backings off, I can line this up against the design that's already there. And it's easiest to line it up against these two kind of oval circular type things. So the top of the pumpkin and that top finger. Line it up along the edge, and when you're happy, push it down to seal. Next, we've got this part of the coffin, and this is optional, so it sits on top of the coffin to add a little bit more interest and visual appeal. But you don't have to add it, so you might decide you prefer to just have it looking like this. So if you leave that brown piece off, when you've added the hand and the pumpkin, this is what the coffin would look like. And that's great, but I thought it was maybe a little bit plain, which is why I've done this extra piece, which was cut from brown. So because this is going to have the pumpkin and hand on it, we want to glue this on if you decide to use it instead of foam. And you need to make sure you only add the glue along the inside pieces because it's going to sit on top of this black bit, which is higher up than the purple. So just put the glue where I'm indicating now, not on these outside edges. When you're adding glue, be sure to move your main design out of the way so you don't accidentally get any glue on it, and then just add some glue to the back of the brown coffin piece. So you'll see I'm just doing these inside pieces. The outside ones don't get any glue on at all, and that's because they're going to be over a layer that is lower down so the glue wouldn't stick. Line up the piece with that inside shape, which is black, on the coffin. And gently push it down, trying not to squidge out the glue from the edges. Next, I'm going to move on to the bat, which sits on top of the little shape in the middle. And this time we can use foam. So just a couple of little pieces of foam pad will be fine for this bat. Next, let's move on to the pumpkin. So this is two more layers, a brown one and then the orange face on top. Both of these are going to be done with foam pads. So to start, turn the brown piece over and add all of the foam on the back. I'm just moving my main design out the way a little bit so I don't get any foam on it by mistake if I drop a piece. Alright, here's my foam, so now I can just position this on top of that black pumpkin outline. It will match up perfectly, and then make sure it goes over the brown bit on the coffin if you used it, and then move on to the orange piece. I'm just checking I've got it the right way round, which I think I do. Double check, yep, that's looking good. So I can turn it over and add the foam. When all the foam's added, just stick it on top of the brown piece and it will perfectly line up again. And there we go, pumpkin done. Moving on to the green hand, this is one main bit of green, which I've got a little bit stuck. There it is. So this is going to then have some little white fingernails on, and the fingernails are the smallest part of this whole design. For the hand, add your foam along and make sure you put a little bit in all those fingers so that they're not going to come apart from the base. Take off the backing of the foam pads and then turn the hand over and stick it on. So once again, we're aligning it with the shape that's already there on the black card. Now it's time to position the fingernails. And these all come in different sizes, so roughly it's the largest one on the thumb, and then they go smaller as it gets further away until you get to that little finger. So I find it's easiest to get these into position before you stick them, just to make sure you've got them all the right way round. So I'm just lining these up against the green, and then as these pieces are so small, I'm going to glue them on rather than use foam. So just a tad of glue on the green, and then just tap those fingernails into position. You only need a little bit of glue as these are such small pieces of card. And there we go, the hand is done. This is very nearly finished, so let's move on to the broom and the potion bottle. The next thing we're going to stick on is this brown piece, and you need to be careful when you stick it that you don't put any foam pads on this far left side of the potion bottle, because we need it to overlap the haunted house. If you were to put foam pads down that little space there, it would mean that the overlap won't happen as the pads will be in the way, so it won't line up and it won't go on properly. So when you turn it upside down to add all the foam pads, just be careful you don't add any down the far side of that potion bottle. I'm cutting my foam pads a little bit smaller as I was starting to run out, so I need some small ones, and also this broomstick handle is quite thin, so small pads work better. This lines up with the middle of the main black shape that we did first, so you've got a black outline all the way around the edge, which matches the outline around the edge of the other shapes we've already done. And you can see the potion bottle overlaps the haunted house. Next is this orange piece, so once again we're going to turn it over and add some foam. Once the foam's on there, you can line it up, and this goes along the broom, and then it will cover the whole of the potion bottle shape. To complete the potion bottle, there's two more pieces. There is a white and a green to make the slimy potion inside. We're going to stick the white bit on first, again using the foam pads. So that will line up against the bottom, and you'll see the orange then creates the cork in the top of the bottle. Now for this green one, I'm going to glue it on because it's supposed to be the potion inside, so it shouldn't really be foam because then it would stand out on top of that bottle when it should be on the same layer, because this is inside of the glass if you think about how it would look in real life. So just a tad of glue, and do not do what I'm doing here. Don't glue something on top of your layered design, because if you put a little bit outside of that green, you're going to mess up the haunted house, and that is not what we want at this late stage in the game. So don't do what I just did. Glue it somewhere on your craft mat instead. Stick it on, and then there we go. All of the layers for all the pictures are done. So what we've got left to do is to add the Halloween words along the bottom. To start with, take the white parts of the letters and just place them in position. So this will spell out the word Halloween, and if you're not quite sure of the spelling, then compare it to your original SVG in Design Space to make sure you get all the letters in the right order and the right way around. You can see I'm struggling a little bit here to remember which order everything needs to go in. Once you've put the white bits into position, take the matching black bits and make sure you've got everything the right way round. Especially the H and the N, these pieces are very similar, so it can be quite easy to mix them up. But by putting the black layers on top, just laid on top before we stick anything down, you can check that they're all in the correct order and you've got the right black layers on the right white layers. There we are, so that's all of them, and now I can just play about and get them into position where I want them to go. Now what I've already done, just in that little jump cut you saw there, is I've stuck all of the black layers to the white ones with foam pads. So I've used foam pads which I cut smaller on the backs of all of those black layers to stick them onto the white parts. There's just one thing left to do, which is to attach the white letters to my main sign, and I'm using foam pads for this. I want it to be nice and 3D, so this is the last chance to add one more layer to the design. Peel off the backings and then make sure you've got your letters the right way up and just put it into position, making sure it's straight, and then push it down. Then go ahead and do the same thing for every single letter, and it's finished! Here is the Happy Halloween sign all assembled and put together. It looks so good. I'm so happy with this. It took forever to design, but I think it was definitely worth it, and it comes together really nicely, and it'll be a real showstopper piece to go on your wall this Halloween. So look at all these layers, how they come together with the colours. It's so big, it doesn't even really fit on my screen. So it's 22 inches in total, remember. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Halloween crafts, including one every day for the whole month of October. Thank you for watching. Bye.